Hello Revive, I hope you're having a very good Revive weekend, and I'm so glad you could join me for part of it. I'm even standing by some greenery, so you would think of Ashburnham as I do my introduction. One of the many things I love about Revive is the time we have to spend with each other, good quality time over lots of meals. We can even finish conversations with people, and that's lovely, isn't it? And I do miss that. Jesus did that quite a lot in the Bible. There are so many instances of him having meals with friends and people that he has just met. Zacchaeus, he went to his house for tea. He had lots of meals with Mary and Martha. He organized the Last Supper. He had breakfast on the beach. He made breakfast on the beach for his friends. So if Jesus did that and we want to follow him, then it's a really good idea that we do the same as well, isn't it? There's a verse in the Bible that I love, and I'd like to read it to you. It's from Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24 and 25. Let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. And let us not neglect our meeting together, as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is drawing near. To me, these verses have spoken about the importance of being an active part of God's people, and sharing hospitality is one way to do that, isn't it? To share our home, to be vulnerable, to allow people in, to spend time with them, to deepen relationships and strengthen friendships. Having people around your home is a huge act of love. It demands a lot from you, but it helps to nurture friendships and relationships and to deepen and strengthen them, isn't it? But some of us, we might have quite a lot of insecurities and feel quite vulnerable about letting people into our homes. For a start, it might be that the only good meal we know how to cook might take us all weekend, and we don't have that sort of time. But I've been to a friend's house and had toast that has made me feel really loved and special at that time because I needed it. And the thing is, maybe toast won't always do, and it's good for us to have a few recipes up our sleeve that we can just churn off at the drop of a hat, and in an hour everything's ready. I think it makes us feel less stressed. Maybe we can use this lockdown time as that prep time where we can practice a few dishes, so that when the time is right and we can have friends round properly once again and share meals with each other, then we have these dishes that we've practiced and prepared and got ready, and it doesn't stress us out, and we can just have those deep friendship long meal times with friends where we can talk and get to know each other and hear what's on people's hearts. So I'm going to show you 3 things that I can do quite quickly, and it's easy for me, and I'd love to teach some of it to you. So if you join me in the kitchen, we're going to make a rice and a dal and a lamb curry, which I can do in under an hour now. So I hope that in our time now, you can learn a few things and put it into practice one day. So let's go. I'm going to show you how to make rice. It's fairly simple, and everyone needs to have a good rice recipe. The rice I'm using is Basmati because that's easily available here. And I'm using 1 mug of rice, and that's about 200 grams. You can feed about 3 hungry people, maybe 4 not so hungry people. You just have to try it out. What I have is a colander with some holes. So what I normally do is I just put the rice in there and let the tap run and the water run through, and then when it is all clear, that's when I stop. But if you don't have one of these, then you just put it in like this in a bowl and use some water to give it a good rinse, so that you rinse out all the excess starch. Okay, look at this, isn't it? Or can you see that? It's not very clear. And what I do is I rinse this a couple of times, and then I let the rice sit in the water for at least 10 minutes to absorb some of the water, and then it's much easier to cook. So that's step 1. Let's now cook the rice. We've rinsed the rice. Look at this. I've drained the rice, and this is how it looks now. It looks a bit milky, it's because it's absorbed water. Get a saucepan on your hob and pour some really hot water into the pan. I've put the rice into the saucepan and now it's bubbling, so I'm going to give it 7 minutes, and I'm going to set the timer for 7 minutes. There are many methods to cook rice, and I'm going to use the one where you cook it like pasta. Get a lot of water in the saucepan and you let the rice cook. You don't have to measure exactly at all, just make sure there's plenty of water in the pan. There are other methods and they're all okay. This one is just an easy one. For others, you need to have the exact measurement of rice. It's the absorption method, so you need to know the type of rice and how much water that type of rice needs. You can work it out quite simply. But it's almost 7 minutes, and when the timer goes off, I'm going to turn the hob off. I'm going to drain this rice and make sure all the water's out, and then I put it back into this pan and put the lid on. I'm going to turn the heat off, and that's all you have to do. There it is, 7 minutes. That's off, and I'm going to drain this. There you go, I've drained it. That's how it looks. I'm going to put the lid on and leave it like that for 10 minutes, just somewhere in the corner where it can sit for 10 minutes. That's it. I'm going to teach you how to make a very simple dal. Every family in India has a different dal recipe, and they make it differently. In fact, I once had a really spectacular dal that my brother-in-law made, and I asked him for the recipe and he said, it's yours, and I had never made it like that ever. So you see, even with the same ingredients, you can make it quite differently, and this is the way I do it. Cooking dal is a two-step process. Dal just means lentils. So step one, I've got half a cup of split red lentils. You can use any lentils you want. This just cooks really quickly, so that's why I'm using it. Half a cup of split red lentils, and then to that, we are going to boil it with some spices for 20 minutes, just so that it gets really soft. The spices I'm going to use are turmeric, Asafoetida and salt. Now you use just the right amount of turmeric, because I've seen dals that are that have different colors. You don't want radioactive yellow, and you definitely don't want a very insipid color either. A good balance is somewhere in the middle, isn't it? So you can work out what's best for you. So the first step, you take the dal and you put 4 times the amount of water. If you want it really runny, you can put more water. If you want it quite stodgy, then you put less, but it depends on you. You can work that out. And you boil the dal and these spices for 20 minutes. Now, if you have a pressure cooker like I do, it takes no time at all. 3 whistles or like 6 or 7 minutes and your dal is soft. But if you're cooking it on a saucepan like I am today, then it will take you 20 minutes to get the dal really soft. So that's step 1. If you're not planning to make curries a lot, you don't need a pressure cooker. But if you were looking to invest in one, then I would go for the really simple classic models, not one with the kitchen sink attached to it, with all the bells and whistles. The one I've got is quite simple. Make sure it's got a whistle, a safety valve, it opens easily like that, and it's got a rubber seal to make sure that you can cook properly. And there you go. That's a simple one. Okay. Now this is step 1 of the dal. We're going to take our lentils and put it in a pan like that. And then you put all those 3 ingredients, the turmeric, the asafoetida and the salt, into the pan there. And then you put 4 times the amount of water and turn it on. Okay, now that's all you need to do. You can give it a stir if you want. There you go. Make sure that it boils now for 20 minutes. We're going to get it on a high heat, let it come up to the boil, and then leave it in the corner to cook for 20 minutes. So it's almost 20 minutes and the lentils have been simmering for all that time. The timer is going to go off in a minute, and then I will show you how it looks. It should be nice and soft, the dal. Oh, there it is. There you go, turn that off. Oh, look at that. Look at that. It's nice and soft. And it should look something like that, okay? The dal is done now. I'm just going to leave it there. That's step one. And while I talk to you about how to do the seasoning for the dal. Step two with the dal is the Tatka, or the seasoning. The reason the dal tastes amazing is because of this second step. You need to have some groundnut oil or vegetable oil or sunflower oil. It's a bland oil with no flavor in it. You can't use olive oil because of all the flavors that will clash with the spices. We have to get it really hot, and then we put in lots of different spices and other ingredients, and what happens is that the hot oil and the flavors of all these ingredients, they just do their thing, and then you mix the oil into the dal that you've already cooked and give it a good stir, and then it tastes amazing. So that's what we're going to do. So I've got some vegetable oil, and then when the oil is really hot, I put the mustard seeds first, allow it to pop in the hot oil, and then I put the cumin seeds and the ginger and the garlic and the onions and the tomatoes, and give it all a nice stir. And when it's done, I stick that into the dal and give it a good stir, and that's it. For the seasoning, you've got to get a little frying pan and you put some sunflower oil in it, and then you get it really hot. Okay, when it is really hot, almost smoking, then you put the mustard seeds in it first. Look, these are the mustard seeds, and you can try it by just putting a couple. If they sizzle like that, that's ready. Okay, it's hot and ready to go. Beware, because everything is going to splutter and go everywhere. Now to the mustard seeds, I'm going to add cumin, and then the onions. You've got to have everything ready for the seasoning because it all happens really quickly. Now you need to give the onions a minute so that they fry up. And the next thing I'm going to put is ginger and garlic, and you can put as much as you want. I'm going to put that much in there. Give it a good stir. And this is very optional, but I do like some tomatoes in my dal, so I'm going to put it in there towards the end because you want it to hold its shape, and then you get little specks of red tomato in your dal, and it looks really good. Okay, that's almost done, and now what you do is you take this is the cooked seasoning. What happens here is all the flavors from the spices go into the oil, and then this flavored oil goes into the dal, making it taste divine. So you ready? I'm going to turn this off. And then this goes in here. A good stir. Look at that. And the last thing we're going to do is garnish with some coriander leaves. Look at that. Yellow dal with red tomatoes and some coriander leaves. Looks really good and ready. There you have it.
Can you tell me about a special meal that you've had?
Yes, it was just before Christmas. It was our home group meal, and it wasn't just about the food, which was absolutely delicious, but it was about the fellowship about the company and just sharing and chatting with each other, which yeah, I thought was great. It was as good as the food. Yeah.
My favourite time of showing hospitality, the most recent I can think of, is when I had a couple of friends round in my own flat. And I cleaned everything was nice, and I welcomed them into my home. And I feel like welcoming someone into your home is a bit like, I know this sounds cheesy, but it's kind of like welcoming people into your heart, and it's just a way of making them feel nurtured and cared about and special.
So the time that I was thinking about was so nearly a year ago we got married up on the Wirral, and not many people from church could come to the service, so we had a blessing at Ichthus, and then we had a meal together with the church afterwards, and it was just really special to be able to share something of our wedding day with everyone, and also be welcomed into the church and just share that time with people.
So a number of years ago I had a really very intense project that I had to complete within 2 weeks, and I was working from every day from 10 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, and it was quite an important thing that I had to work on. And I remember one day the doorbell rang, and then someone I know popped round with a meal that they cooked for my church, and then this happened the following night and the following night.
Wow.
So every night this lady brought me around a cooked meal, and that was an amazing thing, and much welcome at the time.
I absolutely love going around to people's houses for meals, so yeah, please invite me.
Now we're going to make a lamb curry. I'm going to teach you a very easy lamb curry. Most of these ingredients you probably have in your cupboards anyway. The only thing you'd need is some lamb and cream that's extra, and I'll go through the ingredients with you. I've just got a stewing lamb. You don't have to get the most expensive bits of lamb at all. You can just get some cheap bits of lamb, it's fine. It will come out amazingly anyway. So here are the ingredients for this curry. Here we have some sunflower oil, 1 onion chopped, a tablespoon of ginger paste and a tablespoon of garlic paste, 500 grams of lamb chopped, a tablespoon of ground cumin, a tablespoon of ground coriander, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, and half a teaspoon of chili powder. You can add a bit more if you want it hotter. 1 teaspoon of salt, 400 grams tin tomatoes, 1 teaspoon garam masala, some single cream, and chopped coriander as a garnish at the end. Here's a tip about ginger and garlic in Indian cooking. We use so much of it, and if you were going to make lots of curries, I'd recommend this step. You have to make ginger paste and garlic paste. I used to buy it from the shop, and now my favorite brand is no longer, so I have to make it at home. It's very annoying. But you know, you get a huge bunch of ginger and garlic, and then you make a paste out of it, and it'll last in the fridge for at least a couple of weeks. So that's what I'm going to use in this lamb curry. If you don't have time to make it into a paste, just chop it really finely, and that should do as well. So this is how you'd make the lamb curry. You fry, it's really simple. You fry some onions and ginger garlic, and then you fry the lamb. When it's fried a little bit, you put all the spices in and the salt, and make sure it's all coated through, and then you add the tin tomatoes, and at the very end, and let it cook through, and at the very end you add, if you want, it's optional, you can add some garam masala, some cream, and some coriander to finish. It won't take very long at all, so let's get going. Now that we have all the ingredients for the lamb curry prepped, we're going to start cooking. Get a wok or a pan like this ready, and we're going to put the sunflower oil. You can use as much or as little as you want, but just be aware that the more oil you put, the quicker things cook. Don't put so much that it becomes a very unhealthy dish, but I've put a little bit more than a tablespoon there. And we just let it get hot for a minute. When it's hot, we're going to add the onion that has been chopped. If you do all the 3 dishes that I teach you, you can just do them all simultaneously, so you get the whole thing done in 45 minutes, and you have a rice and a dal and a lamb curry all ready for dinner. There you go. Ideally, we're going to cook the onions for at least 10 minutes. We want it brown on the edges but not burnt, and that gives the curry a really nice flavor. Five minutes later, this is how it should be looking, and we are going to add the ginger and garlic paste to this. Tablespoon. Make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom. As long as you give it a couple of minutes to cook through, it should be okay. You wait till it stops smelling of raw garlic before you do the next thing, which is you add the lamb into this mix. In goes the lamb. And you fry it till all the lamb is brown. When the lamb has turned brown, we're going to add all the spices, and here are the spices: the coriander, cumin, turmeric and chili powder. You know, if you like it really spicy, you can also add a couple of green chilies. It really does depend on how spicy you want it. There you go. Give it a good stir and put the salt in. Now, you do need a decent amount of salt in there, because otherwise you won't really taste the flavors of the spices. The salt brings out all the flavors, so I know some of you have to be quite careful with how much salt you use, but generally we do add in a generous sprinkling of salt in curries. I'm just going to give it a minute for the spices to do its thing, and then I'm going to add the tinned tomatoes to it. Oh, look at that. It's smelling amazing. It really doesn't matter if there are bones in the meat. It just adds to all the flavor, so you don't have to get boneless lamb at all. If there are some bones in there, that's good, because it gives a lot of flavor. I'm now going to add the tinned tomatoes. Here you go. A can of tinned tomatoes, 400 grams. And I'm going to give this a good stir. You now have to let this, after you've stirred it, you have to let it cook for at least 20 minutes. Well, for a start, you want the tomatoes to cook, but you also want the meat to cook. And you can now leave this on the hob. Once you've given it a good stir, you can leave it on the hob for 20 minutes while it simmers. Now here's a little trick, right? If you want your lamb curry to feed lots of people, lots more, then just add some water to the curry, and it will be enough for lots more rice, you know, and you can feed a couple of extra people by just making another cup of rice as well. But you can also have it dry, so you can allow all the tomatoes to just cook through, and this can be a dry-ish lamb dish, which is also amazing, and you can have it with naan or chapatis. We're now going to let it simmer for about 15 minutes. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes and it looks like this. You could just eat it like this, and it's healthy and good, and you don't need anything more. But you can make it a little bit more special if you wanted, and I'll show you what you can do. Get a pan and get some oil hot in the pan, and when it is hot, you can get a little bit of garam masala and fry it in the hot oil, and then put it into your curry and give it a good stir, and that'll bring out some amazing flavors. So I'll show you that now. I just need this oil to get hot here. Look at this, it's looking really good. One way to tell when the tomatoes and the lamb's cooked is when all the oil starts to seep out. You know, lamb is quite fatty, so there will be some oil here. The oil is now hot, so I'm going to put the garam masala in the pan. And let it just sizzle for like 30 seconds. I'm going to add this to the curry. Right? Let's not waste any of it. And give it a good stir. You know, if you wanted to finish like this, that's completely fine. All you have to do is add a little bit of chopped coriander. But I'm going to add a little bit of single cream, okay? It's just for those who can't stand, you know, it being too hot and spicy. The single cream calms it down a bit, but it also makes it quite rich and tasty. So I've got some single cream here. If you'd rather not have that, that's completely fine. But now look at it. Oh, yum. That's looking good, isn't it? Okay, and the finishing touch is ground coriander. Just chop a whole bunch of coriander and then garnish willy-nilly, because it makes everything look good. Because look at this. Oh, that's a nice picture, isn't it? You can if you want, well, it's best, it's good for you to stir it in, because if you just leave it on the, if you're not going to serve right away and you leave all the coriander on the top like that, the steam will wilt the coriander, then it just looks really bad. But if you stir it in, it will look green for a little bit longer. Okay, when you are dishing it out and serving it up, then you can just put a little bit of coriander like this. And look at that, looks good, doesn't it? That's your lamb curry. Thank you for spending some of your precious time with me today. I hope you've had a good time. I hope you've learned a few things, and I've given you a few tips, and I hope that you're able to use some of this perhaps and practice this during lockdown, so that when the time's right, you can have friends and show some of your new skills to them. Goodbye.